As I said earlier, they're going to be, Congress is coming in, and on the agenda of the House is the move to impeach the President of the United States. I think the idea of impeaching the President is absurd and would be an abuse of the impeachment power, but it's something that Democrats want to do. And President Trump is going to have to face this political problem, because it is a political process, impeachment. It's not a legal process. Impeachment in the House only requires majority vote, and it's run by politicians, so it's necessarily political. Now, the president can only be removed from office as a result of trial and 2/3 of senators voting to convict him, so his removal is unlikely, but the impeachment fight's going to be very real. And I know it's going to be abusive, because already you've got some crazed Democrats saying inappropriate things. You have a congressman from Detroit, Michigan, a new Democrat, far-left congressman. I think she's a vowed member of the Democratic Socialists of America, so she's far-left. She's a socialist. And she was at before a group of activists, a far-left group called MoveOn.org. By the way, that was formed to oppose Clinton's impeachment. Move on from the Clinton impeachment issue. That was their focus. So she's telling this MoveOn.org group that she was talking to her son, and long story short, she says, we're going to impeach the bleepity bleep. You can look it up online, but I'm not going to repeat it, and I'm not going to give you enough detail. It's online all over the place. So she called the President of the United States a nasty name and said, we're going to impeach the blankety blank. So this is what the new Democrats want to do. Now, Nancy Pelosi and some of the senior Democrats are saying, well, no, we got to wait. We can't get too far ahead of it. And the Politico, which is a far-left magazine on the internet, Democrat activist magazine, says that their headline is that Dems livid after Rashida Tlaib vows to impeach the blankety blank. So they're doing a spin for the Democratic allies, where they've got the leadership trying to disassociate themselves. Well, not really disassociate themselves from Tlaib's comments. Pelosi said, while she didn't agree with the language, she also didn't think anyone should make a big deal about the expletive, noting the president is also known for having a foul mouth sometimes. Well, if the president is cursing like that in public, he should be admonished, that's for sure. I'm not in the censorship business. I don't like the language. I wouldn't use that language, but I wouldn't establish language standards for my colleagues, which of course isn't the issue. The language obviously, it makes it quite apparent. It gets attention to the underlying issue. But the language isn't the big issue here. It's the idea that their first goal out of the gate is to impeach President Trump. Based on what? Well, Brad Sherman, another radical from California, already introduced articles for impeachment over his firing for James Comey, calling it obstruction of justice. How is firing James Comey obstruction of justice? I don't know. But that isn't what the impeachment standard would be. The idea that that's obstruction of justice is absurd. The president had every right to fire James Comey, and in retrospect, his firing James Comey was absolutely correct, because James Comey was corrupt. He illicitly targeted the president, was spying. He illicitly targeted General Flynn with an ambush interview. He protected Hillary Clinton. He did things he wasn't supposed to do as FBI director. He's now under criminal investigation for taking documents he shouldn't have taken after he was fired. The president did the American people a favor by firing James Comey. James Comey reports to the president. The president has a right to have the FBI director of his choosing. And if he didn't have confidence in the FBI director because of this abusive Russia investigation, I'm glad he fired him. and he should have. Look, the impeachment is high crimes and misdemeanors, such as bribery and treason. The president hasn't done anything like that. It's not everything you don't like. He raised my taxes, he tweets in a way I don't like the way he talks. I guess you could try to impeach him over that, but that isn't what our founding fathers intended. High crimes and misdemeanors. There's no Russia collusion. He's allowed to fire employees of the Justice Department and the FBI, especially ones who are politicized like James Comey was and were abusing their offices. But look, if the Democrats want to do that, they have a constitutional right to try to make the case. But our goal as Judicial Watch, as an educational group, is to affirm the rule of law and our constitutional system. And we don't see anything mandating or requiring the impeachment of the President of the United States. But the hard left that's coming in with the new Democratic class has this as a big issue. So in the meantime, Judicial Watch is going to continue to highlight the more important scandal, which the Democrats in Congress aren't going to investigate because, you know why? Because they'd have to investigate themselves. They'd have to investigate themselves. Because this Comey investigation that led to, the FISA investigations, the dossier investigations, the targeting of Trump as a result of the dossier material created by the Democratic National Committee hired firm that paid off Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign firm that paid off Fusion GPS. That's the corruption. Are the Democrats going to bring in the Democratic National Committee and ask them about their payments to Fusion GPS to work with so-called Russia intelligence to manufacture false dirt on the president as insurance in case he won? Of course not. And this is why we have Judicial Watch. Because when the branches get politicized, and frankly, when the Republicans running the House, they didn't do a good job investigating that either. In fact, one of the last gasps of the Republican House was a letter by Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte affirming the need to respect the Mueller investigation. Once again, protecting the Mueller abusive investigation. That's what the House did as one of its last acts. So this is why Judicial Watch is doing the work we're doing. We have Freedom of Information Act lawsuits to expose the FISA abuse. We have Freedom of Information Act lawsuits to hold Robert Mueller accountable. We have Freedom of Information Act lawsuits to expose the unmaskings that took place targeting the Trump team and the deep state generally. And the president should declassify, order the declassification and the wide-scale release of information here. Because Congress isn't going to do it. He's going to have to do it. The House is going to shut down in terms of demanding information exposing FBI, DOJ corruption. I mean, it was just Judicial Watch that exposed earlier this just last month, that the State Department was rushing out classified information improperly to the Senate the day before the president was inaugurated to make sure that dirt on Russia supposedly was out there. Illegal dissemination of classified information, that's my view of it. And it was Judicial Watch that uncovered that, not Congress. In fact, Congress is implicated in this deep state assault on the president.